Hey everyone, how's it going? My name is Matt Jarbo. Welcome to Three Buck Theater, and today is kind of a surprising day in regards to trending internet news, and that is Make Solo 2 Happen Day, which basically means it's been a year since Solo: A Star Wars Story hit theaters and kind of failed a bit. So much so that it threw a gigantic effing rock in the entirety of Disney's plans for Lucasfilm and Star Wars. But fans of the film, and there have been many that have grown since its release a year ago, are coming out today to push the hashtag Make Solo 2 happen. And you know what? I completely support it. I absolutely, positively, 100% completely support it. And there is a multitude of reasons as to why. But let me just kind of start with the main key one. I really liked the movie. I did. When I saw it in theaters on opening night last year, I was impressed, especially at that last big reveal with Darth Maul. I was the only idiot in my theater who audibly got loud and started visibly squirming in my seat from how excited I was. I was like, oh my God, it's Maul! And the fact that they got Ray Park to don the look again, to put on the horns and the makeup, and Sam Witwer to voice it for simply those couple lines was awesome because I love the portrayal of Darth Maul in Rebels and Clone Wars. And so I'm really, really excited to see where that potential storyline with Kira would have gone if there ever was going to be a sequel. There was a lot there that they could have done with that I think was opening up to this trilogy of films to really kind of give us the young Han Solo life. And a lot of people out there were arguing it's unnecessary, it's unneeded, we don't need this, yada, 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 yada. But you know what? We had the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles, and those were good. So it can be done. I don't really mind it. It's not changing anything in the future. The only real thing that they did that was mildly a little bit on the, a little bit on the nose was the dice. Showing us the dice in The Last Jedi, it played a large part in Solo. I kind of figured that was going to be the connection, even though the dice were there in the original 1977 picture. So yeah, there was a lot that went into Solo. That it was a good movie. It was fun. I've talked to many, many, many people who outright avoided it in theaters, but watched it when it hit home video or when it hit Netflix, that have become fans and have ultimately come around and said, yeah, you know what? It's actually not that bad. I'd like to see a sequel. I'd very much like to see a sequel. I'd like to see them do something with this that can actually be different and be cool. And I think they could. I think if they really sat down and they figured out what they wanted to do with the franchise going forward and not have the same directorial problems and everything else that they had with this one, it would be a much better situation. At the same time, as safe as a director as Ron Howard was with the film, I would have loved to have seen what Phil Lord and Chris Miller would have done with the film. I want to see their cut. I know they shot it. It's clearly not going to be completed, but I would very much like to see them come out with it to give us an idea of what the alternative cuts would have been, or what was added in and what was changed, so on and so forth. Now, listen, the movie's not perfect. It obviously has its own fair amount of problems, but at the end of the day, I can overlook a lot of them. There are a lot of objectively bad movies that we still like, or movies that have a lot of glaring problems, narratively or otherwise, that we can still get behind and still enjoy. Look, I'm just going to be fair here. As much as I love Close Encounters of the Third Kind, that movie is, well, it's not Spielberg's best. It's not. It was definitely a passion project, and it's one that he's been tinkering with for a long time, but it's not his best movie. Not a bad movie, but not his best movie. Same with like Hook. Hook is a fun movie. It's a fun movie I can rewatch anytime, but it does have its own amount of problems. The only Spielberg movies that are objectively perfect are Raiders and Jurassic Park. Definitely Raiders, though. But I still feel that Solo is a character worth exploring more at the young days, giving us that fan service that would be nice to tie into his earlier stories. No, we don't need it, but at the same time, if they want to make it and they do it okay, and they figure out the mistakes that they've made prior and, don't do them again, why not? But the problem then becomes, financially speaking, are they going to do this anytime soon? The answer to that is, well, no, obviously. They've announced the new trilogy of Star Wars films, 2022, 2024, 2026, that are going to be helmed by D.B. Weiss and David Benioff. And we're going to find more out about that here probably in the next couple of months, especially leading up to the hype of episode 9, which looks freaking amazing from what they released from Vanity Fair yesterday. But looking at the financial aspects of Solo, there were problems. For one, the ballooned budget of all the reshoots basically made it impossible to turn a profit unless it did gross $1 billion. It coming out on Memorial Day weekend, a week after Deadpool 2, ultimately hurt it. Yes, it still grossed $88 million. Deadpool 2 grossed $44 million in that second week, and that ultimately hurt it. I feel that it would have crossed the $100 million mark had Deadpool 2 not come out the week before, and we would have been having an entirely different conversation surrounding Solo. There was also the backlash from The Last Jedi. Solo was unfortunately caught in the backlash to that movie. It was what suffered the fate of that film, and that is not fair, in my opinion. It's not fair that Solo suffered as a result of The Last Jedi being just so narratively terrible. It was a movie that did have its own faults, but still was a lot of fun. And I'll be honest with you guys. I own it on digital, and I've watched it a number of times on digital. It has grown on me so much. It is just such a fun movie, in my opinion. And I absolutely love watching it. So I support this. I support Make Solo 2 happen. The thing is, though, the reality of it is, where would it go? If Disney's not putting these movies in the theaters over the span of the next 7 years, right? We're only going to get 3 over the span of 7 years. Something like this would very much go towards Disney Plus. And here's the thing. I think that's going to be a reality. I think Disney's going to invest $100 million in some of these movies and put them onto Disney Plus. And I think with the success of The Mandalorian and Cassian Andor and that third not talked about series, which I think is going to be a lead into whatever the next trilogy is going to be, or potentially could be a solo series, it might be something worth looking into. The storyline from where to go next with Kira and the Crimson Dragon and Maul, and then Boba Fett, perhaps Boba Fett and Jabba Hutt and Lando Calrissian. I mean, all the things they could do with this, I think would be a lot of fun to explore. And I think Bob Iger needs to just, like, the only reason why he had cold feet over this deal or going forward with this is simply because of the Disney Fox merger. I think that was what was holding him back. He knew that there was definitely a stock price hit from this movie failing to meet expectations, and he didn't want to scare the shareholders right before signing off on this major, massive deal. But now this deal is done, and even now they're talking about purchasing the rest of Hulu, and they're buying other things as well. So if they're going to be buying all these things, I don't see why they probably wouldn't look into the possibility of bringing Solo to Disney Plus. I think with the found fandom that the movie has on Netflix, that could translate to a lot of new subscriptions or stayed subscriptions to make a sequel worthwhile on the streaming platform. And I think if they lower the budget a little bit, and I'm sure Alden Ehrenreich and everyone else would come back in to do it, it could definitely be something worthwhile, or at least maybe perhaps a series. I mean, imagine if we got the show continued as like an 8-episode or 6-episode seasons that gave us more of these stories and told us these stories. I think that could be something. But I definitely support this, just like I support the release of Snyder Cut and a lot of other, fan-backed things, because I do want to see what could have been. And I say that in regards to Zack Snyder's cut of Justice League and what could have been Solo 2, provided the film didn't get completely hindered by the failings of The Last Jedi. But I leave it to you, your thoughts, your opinions. Let me know down in the comments below, and have yourself a great day. Hey, thank you so much for watching the video. I really appreciate it. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe if you're new. But if you really want to help the channel, be sure to check out patreon.com/Matt Jarbo. There's $3 Theater perks. Lots going to be going on with that, as well as the Facebook group, which is going to be only growing as time goes on. Anyway, thank you again so much for watching, and I'll see you guys soon.